So, the US men's national team has, in fact, locked in first place in their 2026 World Cup group stage, and Turkey has been eliminated. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a glorified friendly. But this game could still matter, right? Turkey could still play for their honor or whatever is left of that, and the United States could use this as an opportunity to prepare the team for the knockout rounds while also resting key players. So today, let's preview United States versus Turkiye. Hello, hello. If you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV. And today we have the ultimate United States versus Turkey match preview. This is how it's going to go. First, we're going to go through when and where to watch this game, the United States men's national team news and updates, go through the group and everything that you need to know prior to this game. After that, I'm going to go through the projected starting 11. And yes, I expect Pochettino to rotate heavily. Last but not least, we have a guest called Kaan, a freelance soccer journalist and expert on Turkish soccer, to talk about Turkey and what he's seen from the United States so far in this World Cup. It'll be fun to get an outsider's perspective of the US men's national team and how they have done. Now, one thing I want to say before we start, unfortunately, this past week, I got cooked by the Canadian Federation's official Twitter account on Twitter, obviously. Why did that happen? I don't know. I've been very nice to the Canadians. I've been one of the nicest people in the world to the Canadians. I just think they're pissed off that their former president, John Trudeau, or whatever the hell his name is, he flipped sides. Right now, he was rooting for the United States when we played Paraguay. They're also probably jealous that I am better looking and equally as tall as Ryan Reynolds. And this video is brought to you by you, yourself. You're sponsoring this video by dropping a like right now, so thank you very much for all the support y'all have been giving us. So very likely during this video, we will have no hydration breaks. Let's roll the intro and start our preview. The United States is set to face Turkiye this Thursday, June 25th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time in LA for the last round of the 2026 World Cup group stage. If you are in the US, you can watch this game on Fox, Telemundo, or Peacock. And once you're watching on one of those channels, you can hit the mute button and join us here on YouTube for our live watch party, our beautiful watch party. It is the best watch party on YouTube. So I'll see you there on Thursday. Throughout history, both sides faced each other 5 times, with 2 American wins, 2 Turkish wins, and 1 draw. The most recent one was actually in June of 2025. That was a friendly game, and it ended on a 2-1 win for Turkey, but again, right now, that is 100% irrelevant. Okay, now before we continue and talk about the US men's national team projected starting 11, injury updates, and much more, we don't have a sponsor. We don't have a hydration break. So if you want to support the channel, make sure to drop a like right now. Drop also a random comment in the comment section of this video. And feel free to join our Patreon. I put the Patreon link in the description if you want to join it. Okay, let's talk about the US men's national team. Okay, so before we get into the projected starting 11, we have to talk about some news and updates. So a couple things that you have to keep in mind. Tyler Adams, Chris Richards, Anthony Robinson, and Balogun are all on a yellow. So if they get a yellow card this game, they would be suspended for the next one. What does that mean? That means all 4 of those players will very likely play 0 minutes. Very likely. That's the rational thing to do, right, if you're Mauricio Pochettino. Now, listen, this update also came out today. I'm recording this on Monday. And it says the U.S. men's national team midfielder Christian Roldan is nursing a muscle strain. He's unlikely to train. The status is day-to-day. That means Roldan will very likely not be available on Thursday, which begs the question, who's going to start in the midfield, right? Because you're going to say Roldan shouldn't start anyway. Well, if you're rotating the entire roster, essentially, Roldan could end up getting minutes. But I want to add this. I don't think Pochettino is going to rest everyone. I don't expect him to do that. And let me explain to you why I think that. He's going to want to keep the momentum going. He's going to want to keep the players sharp. Like from the Australia game to the Turkiye game, we have almost a whole week. That's enough for everyone to rest, recover, and be 100%. And then after that, we only play July 1st, which is like a week away. It's like a whole week. So you can't keep these guys without any type of like actual competitive game or a friendly, like this one, a glorified friendly. You can't keep them with 0 minutes for 2 weeks and show up sharp, right, for the World Cup knockout rounds. So what I think Pochettino will do is he's going to make some like specific changes, right? He's going to bench all of the players on a yellow. So Balogun, Tyler Adams. Actually, this is wrong because Richards is on a yellow. So let me remove Richards here. It's not going to be Richards. It'll be Mark McKenzie. So let me put McKenzie here. So it'll probably look like this, the projected starting 11. Every player that's on a yellow, which is Richards, Anthony Robinson, Balogun, and Tyler Adams, they're not going to play. And I doubt they even play a single minute. I truly do. He's not going to risk it. And then it would be so what you may be asking, what is he going to do then? He'll very likely start most of the players and he'll rest a few guys that maybe had too many minutes or that he has a backup that he wants to give minutes so that he's sharp for the knockout. So I think he's going to start Weah over Dest to give Dest some rest, and Dest will probably come in the second half. And that'll give Weah a lot of minutes because you want Weah very sharp for the knockout rounds. Arfston will start for Anthony Robinson because Robinson is on a yellow. I think he's going to rest Tim Ream because Tim Ream is old. So Tim Ream might actually come off the bench throughout the game. But I think he's going to give Trusty a few minutes as well. Starting. So not a few minutes, like 60 at least. That way Trusty's also sharp for the knockout rounds if we need him. Mark McKenzie over Richards because Richards is on a yellow. Freeman will probably start. Now, will he be subbed out for Scally at some point? I believe so, but Freeman will start. Malik Tillman, he's going to start, right? Because who else are you going to play there? Brendan Aronson. Berhalter is an option, so he's going to be there for Tyler. And then who plays for Malik Tillman? Roldan is injured, so who's going to come in? So I think he's going to start Freeman, Tillman, and McKennie as the guys that are locked-in starters for the United States. But Tillman, Freeman, and McKennie will very likely be subbed out somewhere between the 60th and 70th minute. They're going to not play they're not going to play the full 90. That's what I think will happen. Gio Reyna will very likely get a start, and then Pepe will play up top because Balogun is on a yellow. Now, Matt Freese, he has to start the goalkeeper. So if you look here, based on the lineups that Pochettino put in the first few games, the only guys that are locked-in starters that have been are Matt Freese, Alex Freeman, Tillman, and McKennie. So he has 5 subs throughout the game. I think Freeman, Tillman, and McKennie, they will not play more than 70 to 60 minutes, something like that, 60 to 70 minutes. Everyone else, he's going to let them play. And again, he's going to give minutes to guys that can contribute in the knockout rounds. I think at some point, Haji Wright might get minutes, like Pepe might be subbed out. Christian Pulisic, right now, he's healthy. He's training with the team. So I think Pulisic will come off the bench for Reyna at some point in this game. I think he'll give Pulisic probably 20 minutes, which I'm okay with that. Give him 20, keep him sharp. The same way I think he's going to give Dest 20 minutes. Dest is not on a yellow, right? So those are the subs. So if I had to guess, like if he has some pre-planned subs, obviously it depends on how the game goes and the U.S. wants to win this. I'll probably sub in Scally for Freeman in the second half, and I think he'll do something like that. Tillman will probably come off, and then I guess Brendan Aronson probably will come in. McKennie will be subbed out, and then maybe Zendejas or Brendan Aronson will come in for McKennie. I think also Reyna will be subbed out, and we're probably going to see Pulisic get a few minutes. And then the last sub, I don't know if he's going to go with Haji Wright getting minutes up top over Pepe for a little bit. Maybe Dest gets a few minutes off the bench to stay sharp. That I don't know. But again, to me, what you're seeing on screen right now is very likely the projected starting 11 with a lot of rotations because the focus is on July 1st now when we play the round of 32, the first knockout game, which at the time of this recording, we still don't know who we're going to face. Now, real quick, just to look into our group, because you guys should know by now, we topped the group, and we have 6 points. Australia and Paraguay have 3, and Turkey has 0. The first criteria or the first tiebreaker is head-to-head. So I'm adjusting. I'm fixing one thing that I said that was wrong in previous previews. It's head-to-head, and we defeated Australia, and we defeated Paraguay. So if Turkey beats us, and any of those two win when they play each other, Australia or Paraguay, they cannot surpass us because it's head-to-head, all right? And Turkey can only reach 3 points. They've been eliminated because they can only beat the U.S. on head-to-head, and they can't reach the U.S. anymore when it comes to points. So Turkey has been eliminated, and Australia and Paraguay is going to be an incredible game. So Australia plays for the draw. They go through with a draw, and Paraguay could go through with that same draw with 4 points as one of the best third-place teams. We'll see. They're both going to go for the win. It's going to be an incredible game. Now, listen, let's go on and bring in Kaan to talk a little bit about what went wrong with Turkey. Are they going to take this game seriously? And last but not least, I'm going to ask him his thoughts on the United States. Have the United States of America surprised him or not? And before he comes in, everyone, make sure to drop a like in this video if you haven't already. All right. Okay. So Turkey definitely didn't do well in the World Cup. And I'm actually very happy that our guest was still willing to come here, regardless of what happened, because many people would just say, guys, look, we are embarrassed. We sucked. We were terrible. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. But even though this game is technically a glorified friendly, the United States topped the group and Turkey's eliminated, it's still a World Cup game. And to me, at least, it matters. And Kaan, thank you very much for joining, even though Turkey definitely disappointed all of us.
Yeah, very happy to be here, and yeah, um, disappoint. It's been a building thing. I think they've been scraping by on the talent of the back of the talent of some of really exceptional young players like Arda Güler and Kenan Yildiz, but Kenan, of course, went into the World Cup injured, so he wasn't 100% fit. And Arda Güler, I think, puts way too much pressure on himself. And we saw that as well in these two games where he's forcing shots from positions he shouldn't be forcing them, rushing the shots. And he's a player we're used to seeing as a brilliant playmaker, a visionary, and we saw almost nothing of that except for maybe one really good ball towards the end against the Paraguay game. So it's not the usual Arda Güler we saw. He wasn't playing in a liberated way. I think he put the pressure of the nation on his shoulders, and that just hindered him too much. And the rest of the team, too lethargic, too static. Tactically, Montella, I'm just going to say it outright, shat the bed. Not a big surprise to me, actually. I've been criticizing him heavily since the Euros, because I think at the Euros, despite the quarterfinals, Turkey got quite lucky there. I think people kind of closed their eyes to how the football was at the Euros and just took the result on paper, scoreboard journalism, quarterfinals, that's good enough. And that gave him a lot of credit that he probably doesn't really deserve. But at the same time, Turkey had not qualified for the World Cup since 2002. And this is the first qualifications in 24 years. So, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a
It's
lot like the
double.
USA Berhalter era, where he was just kind of getting lucky and getting a few results that were not great but acceptable, and then that just
Mm,
kind of dragged it longer until
yeah.
ultimately, just like you guys got embarrassed in the World Cup, we got embarrassed in the Copa America. We got
Mm,
grouped at home, right in a group
yeah.
with Bolivia, Paraguay, and Uruguay. So not a great group because Berhalter was in charge, just like the coach you mentioned for Turkey, and he was kind of getting some results. People were like, "Oh, he won the Gold Cup against Mexico. Oh, he qualified to the World Cup, so
Yeah.
he's doing fine."
Yeah.
Eventually, that came to bite us, and the same with
Yeah.
Turkey. Let me ask you a question here: how is Turkey going to face this game? Like, does anyone even care? Are they going to play for honor? Are they going to play the subs? What are the reports coming out, or we don't have anything?
It's a tough call. We saw in the Euro qualifiers that basically the same team that played against Paraguay the other day played against Spain, got beaten 6-0. And then in the second fixture away in Spain, Montella basically lined up the supposed B team, and those guys actually got a 2-2 draw. So he might do that again. He might maybe give some guys minutes that didn't get a lot of minutes in the first two matches. The US will undoubtedly rotate as they'll want to keep their best players fit for the next round. Turkey might do it just to give those guys minutes. But also there's very heavy criticism in Turkey back on the home front. And the reaction from the players, especially the leader figures like Hakan Çalhanoğlu, is very much doubling down. The narrative being spun as, oh, we should be happy to be here. We're lucky to be at the World Cup. We haven't qualified since 2002. Basically, you should be thanking us instead of criticizing us. So maybe those players like Hakan Çalhanoğlu will insist to play, and maybe he'll, I don't know, maybe he'll play well out
Show
of
up,
spite.
show up.
But but I don't think it's an honor thing. I think it's more of a I'll show you.
Ego.
Yes,
Then
more an ego thing than an honor thing. So I could see that happen, or maybe we'll just see the same lethargic, static Turkey again. I think it very much depends on who he decides to line up. But Montella has proven to be a very stubborn coach. The fact that he's played for 2 years without a striker, while everyone's been criticizing him, like play a striker. And look, he didn't have a Balogun or a Pepe available. Turkey doesn't have a great striker in this generation. But you don't have to have a great striker because, look, Obviously, it's easier if you have a great striker, but having a good striker, somebody can hold up the ball, somebody you have a target in the area. It also makes the players around them better because they can play off of that player. The player can pull attention away with 1-2 defenders or whatever, create space. So many ways that the striker can contribute, and he just insists on playing wingers all the time. And I think it just depends on what his lineup is going to be, but it's difficult to look into this man's.
To me, I
Yeah,
was gonna say, to me, this is the toughest game to predict because we literally don't know what version of Turkey we're gonna get.
yeah,
And the US, for all we know, they could play all subs. We don't know what because
yeah.
think about it. If you were the US coach, Pochettino, which we'll talk about that right now, actually, you'd probably just think, why am I not resting everyone? Like it doesn't
Mhm.
matter if I lose,
Yeah,
right? Why am I not
yeah.
resting? I don't think he'll rest everyone. But and who knows? Like you said, sometimes the B team plays better because the guys
Mhm.
want it more. But let
Yeah.
me ask you one thing: did the United States itself surprise you in the World Cup? Because I know a lot of people are surprised with the results
Mhm.
and with how the United States is playing. I think maybe how they're playing might be the biggest surprise because they're playing actual good soccer. Like they're actually
Yeah.
moving the ball, combining, pressing, scoring nice goals, not just lucky set pieces or
Mhm.
counterattacking like how
Yes,
the
no.
US used to be. So,
Yeah.
did the United States surprise you or no?
I To be honest, I didn't pay too much attention to the US beforehand, before the World Cup. But no, it does not surprise me, mainly because I think what is very unique to a World Cup is you have basically a collection of the best players in the world because, bar a couple of exceptions, because they didn't qualify because they play for a small nation or whatever, or Italy, for example.
Yeah.
But for the most part, and especially now with 48 nations taking part, you have a collection of the best players in the entire world being coached by a bunch of, with all due respect, mediocre coaches. And I say
Mhm.
that with all due respect because these people are way more qualified than I am. But they are mediocre in the grand scheme of things if you compare them to the top coaches in the world, like a Pep Guardiola, Hansi Flick, Jurgen Klopp, whatever, right? Compared to those coaches, the vast majority of national team coaches are mediocre. And the reason for that is because most FAs, bar a couple of exceptions, we saw like England pay Capello 8 million a year or 10 million a
And
year.
Tuchel makes
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah. So there are exceptions of coaches, of federations, I should say, that can afford to hire the best coaches. But even if you can afford it, doesn't mean the best coaches will take the job because first and foremost, those best coaches, they care about their reputation. They care about what player material do I have available. If you could be Pep Guardiola taking charge of Curacao, and there's not really much to prove there, right? Like, um, there's not you can't win the World Cup with Curacao realistically, even if you're the best coach in the world. So these people have to be tempted by the project. Most of the time, they take those types of jobs towards the end of their careers when they've crossed off all the check marks on their bucket list, what they want to achieve at club level. So there's a combination of most federations can't afford top coaches, and top coaches don't really want to take those jobs unless it's like later in their careers. But there's an exception. There's a couple of exceptions, but the US, I believe, have one of those exceptions. Mauricio Pochettino, while not an upper echelon, not an absolute elite coach in the world, he is a very good coach. He proved that at Spurs with Tottenham. He reached the 2018 Champions League final, which is not a small feat at all. He did really well for multiple years at Spurs. And he's just somebody that's proven. Of course, he was coach of Paris Saint Germain as well, and we know all that. So the US have an uncharacteristically good coach, which makes a big difference, and we see that in the football they play as well. High intensity, a lot of interchanging parts, very unpredictable for teams like, for example, Australia were very effectively able to neutralize Turkey with a low block. And yes, Turkey had 75% of the ball, and they did have 30 shots at goal. But when those 30 shots come from areas where they don't pose much threat, and from 30 shots you basically generate maybe two good chances, that's well defended, well played by Australia. But they couldn't do that against the US because the US are too energetic, too athletic, and too unpredictable. And that's, I think, in large part because they have a coach that knows what he's doing, contrary to Turkey.
Yeah, contrary to many national teams. And just before we close, I'll mention a few of the exceptions that you talked about. Brazil getting Carlo Ancelotti,
Yes, 100%.
England, which you talked about with Tuchel. I guess Germany with Julian Nagelsmann would be
Yeah,
also another exception. And there
yeah.
might be a few more that we don't remember, but
But
that's
those are
what we
all those are all top
bi-
countries, right?
rich.
Those,
They're rich. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then
Bar
ultimately,
Brazil, maybe. I don't know how much Brazil pays
They
their
have a lot of
coaches.
money. The federation has a
And
lot of money.
and it's also the Brazil job is
Charming.
sexy.
Yeah.
It's Brazil is one of the most beautiful football countries in the world. Like, and for Carlo Ancelotti, but at the end of his career as well, he's in his 70s, I
Yes.
believe. Or it's a great opportunity for him. But
He's going to retire with Brazil, right? He's going to stay till 2030, and Ancelotti will retire. So ultimately, the U.S. getting Pochettino, which is an expensive coach, and also with a national team that the U.S. realistically, we're not like Curaçao that has 0% chance of winning the World Cup, but we have very close to a 0% chance of winning the World Cup. But Pochettino still took the job because of the U.S. maybe a quarterfinals run. That can be enough to feel like we've accomplished something big. But Kaan, best of luck to Turkey in the future. If there's one positive out of it is Turkey does have a young team. So maybe in 2030, it'll be a much better team with a better coach. And thank you very much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like before you go. I'll see you all on Thursday for the live watch along, the live watch party. And that's all for today. Okay. Thank you very much for always supporting the channel. Again, if you want to join our Patreon, the link is in the description. You don't really get anything in exchange besides supporting the channel. So if you don't want to, don't do it. That's all for today. Thank you for watching and have a great day.